right. Well, Mike, nice to meet you, man.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Man.
Thank you for coming out. At Frontline Funding, we always want to talk to staffing agency owners that are on the front lines growing their business from scratch to where you are today. And we spoke a little bit, and you've been in the business 9 years.
Yes.
And it hasn't been easy.
No, it hasn't.
Anybody that has built a successful business or any organization knows that when you first start out, you feel like you're on the front lines and it's all you getting it done. So I want to start out, introduce, your audience and our audience. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to go into how in the heck did you get the funding that you needed when you first started out?
Yeah, it was definitely a process and a learning. It was an experience, to say the least. So we've been in business since 2013. We initially started, I have a partner, Kenneth Atkins. We started in 2013, but we initially started out of pocket, funding payroll every week.
Self-funded.
Self-funding every week. And we just got to the point where we're like, this got to be a better option.
How stressful was that?
It was very stressful. We were literally alternating every other week. One week he would cover, the next week I would cover. And this went on for quite a while. So we just didn't know. Coming into the industry, it was just one of those things where we're like, we're going to bootstrap it, do it ourselves. But we soon after found out there's a much smarter way, easier way for us to kind of sleep at night, with a good funding partner.
That's good. So you guys currently use your maturation process was self-funding, and then you went into a factoring company.
Correct.
So what are the top, 3 or 4 things, what are the top 3 or 4 things that you get out of a factoring company outside of like a bank?
Well, it's great because what it does for us specifically, it does a couple of different things. The first thing it does, it helps us vet quality clients. So if we're self-funded, we may have taken on that business, and if the client doesn't pay, then we've just lost those funds. With the factoring company, what that does, they have basically, they use a Dun & Bradstreet or whatever different credit rating systems they use. They vet the clients to make sure they're a quality candidate first. If a potential client is new or maybe on the fence, there's different measures and precautions with insurance that will cover us, cover our funding partner as well, that help us rest easy. So we can basically know that regardless of what the payroll is, we'll be able to cover that payroll every single week with no issues, no worries at all.
No, and you hit a good point too. For startups, when you're in your early phases, a factoring company doesn't look at your credit as much as the businesses that you want to staff.
Correct.
And I think you hit on a great point there is, as you're growing your staffing firm, find ways where you don't have to leverage your own personal assets or your own credit. And that's what factoring does.
Exactly. That's the biggest thing is, I wish we knew this when we first started. It would have saved us a lot of headache, a lot of sleepless nights. So yeah,
right.
You're absolutely correct.
So you started out, right, in 2013, you found a good factoring partner. So you were able to at least get your payroll funded.
Correct.
What are some other challenges as a young startup that you remember? What are the top 3 challenges that you know of starting out that really, you didn't think, you weren't going to make it because of it? What were those 3 things?
Well, first off, right off the bat, you have to hire quality employees and people who are going to work for your organization. You have to put just as much thought, effort, background checks to find quality people. And secondly, is really finding a good insurance provider. So the jobs you are going out there to kind of, compete for, you can rest easy. If something happens, you're well protected and a good payroll provider. So and I think that's where kind of key HR comes in.
No, absolutely.
They give you that ease. You can kind of throw it over your shoulder and not have to worry about a lot of that back end stuff.
Yeah, so what are some, let's talk about it. You spoke about it earlier and getting coverage as a staffing agency. You're in a high risk business, right?
Yeah.
So let's go into that. Let's talk to them about that a little bit.
Yeah, so we initially started off in transportation. So anytime you mention the word transportation, any insurance provider, their antennas go up. They're like, we don't know, because it's high risk.
Right.
You have so many issues. People get into accidents. There could be fatalities, injuries. So not only were we in transportation, but our drivers were unloading, basically, materials and cargo. which is double of a challenge. So
Yeah.
we initially, again, not knowing, learning things the hard way. We're kind of hard-headed. We went out there and we found insurance, but we weren't adequately kind of insured. And it just created a lot of different problems. So
Yes.
finding a good partner that can cover off on the workers' comp, not only the payroll and the general liability and any other types of insurance needs that a specific client may need, finding a good partner is probably the number one most important thing if you're starting off a staffing company.
Right? Because think about it. It solidifies your, bottom line.
Absolutely.
What your costs are. And working with a professional employer organization or with the PEO that handles your payroll, your workers' comp, and your HR into one package, that's kind of there for you, and now you can grow and work on making money.
Absolutely. That's the best thing about it, again, is being able to throw it over the shoulder and know you have real professionals in the industry who are supporting and behind you and give you the support you need, so you feel comfortable just going out there. If it's acquiring clients, you can go out and focus on that for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's in 2023 now. I mean, I think everybody's starting to see the value of outsourcing and sticking to your core competency, right?
Yeah.
So as you grow, your labor costs grow. And if your costs are growing for people inside your organization, that means you need a bunch of systems in place that you don't know how to build and you don't know how to run.
Right.
And you know how expensive that is.
Very expensive, yeah. So that's the thing, people don't think about it a lot. So even though your business may be focused on one area, you still have to understand the way business works in the payroll world, the HR world, and the insurance world. So you have to quickly become competent in all of those areas. And then you also have to find people who actually work in those fields and specialize in that field. But again, if you have a good partner like a key HR, they can handle a bulk of that, and you can basically focus your organization on driving revenue.
No, absolutely. So starting out, you had to find a funding partner, which you did. And you believe factoring is the way to go, and so
Absolutely.
do we. That's why we're in the factoring business. Gives you flexibility, and it gives you options, right? And it can ensure some of your cash as well.
Absolutely.
And you need how to understand and operate your labor force inside of your business. That's a huge one as well. So let's turn back a little bit and let's talk about, as a leader in the industry, let's talk about as a leader in business in the staffing world, what are you seeing right now as the common challenges?
Finding quality workers, because the marketplace is changing. People don't want to work in mundane jobs, so those are becoming more and more difficult to fill. People like flexibility. They want to work from home. They like flex hours. So that's the biggest challenge, is finding the quality worker who's still going to work and be very, very productive for your organization.
No, that's a good point, because you're going through kind of like the Great Resignation, right?
Absolutely.
And so over the last year and a half, how has that affected you?
Just different industries have shifted.
Yeah.
For us, we focus on a couple different industries. So some industries are more stable than others.
Yeah.
When you kind of get into the medical field and stuff like that, that's going to be pretty steady.
Right.
We see industries where it's constantly growing. IT security, that's very steady and growing. They're always looking for skilled people in that area. When you get into kind of the challenges, is probably towards the lower wage opportunities, when you get into like hourly wages, $20 and below. That's when you could kind of come into challenges with constant turnover and stuff like that.
Okay.
So you have to constantly find ways to incentivize the employee and kind of keep them happy.
No, that's what's up. What are you guys, so right now, where are you at right now with your staffing firm? Where are you guys headed? What do you want people to know kind of about your company? Like, what's your culture like? What are you guys about? Kind of give us a rundown of who you are as a company and what you guys believe in.
Yeah, at our core, we are about finding quality candidates for our clients.
Okay.
And finding candidates who will fit into their culture. So that's the biggest thing, is finding a cultural match more than anything.
Okay.
Obviously, a requirement would be the skills for the job, but really finding a cultural match is probably towards the top and one of the most important things.
And you're right. That's one of the most fluid things too, because hard skills, right? We can teach hard skills.
Exactly.
It's the soft skills of
Exactly.
being patient or being dedicated or working a little bit harder when you don't feel like it. You know, it's these different types of soft skills that I think employers are caring about more. You know?
Absolutely. And that's key. I mean, a lot of people overlook that, but you can get a candidate who looks great on paper, but their soft skills may not be on par with the environment they're going in, and it can create disaster.
100%. I think that's a huge takeaway. What else? What else can we give other staffing owners that are starting out? You know, some advice. You know, from you growing up. Maybe tell a story, man. Like you said, you had some war stories. Give us one of your best war stories. You know, 24 months in. You know,
a lot of people may not say that, so stay away from pay cards. But no, I mean, it depends. I mean, from a funding standpoint, it's kind of like I mentioned, not really understanding what our options are.
Yeah.
Really what I would say is really educate yourself on every sector of your business. What are my options from a financing perspective? What are my options from a payroll perspective? Insurance. That's when I think a really good partner like a Key or a Frontline come into play.
Yeah.
Because they're going to relieve a lot of your stuff. Those are the two biggest things, really. Because what that essentially does for your business, especially if you're starting off, it puts you in a position to scale your business. You have the core competencies that you need to secure your business and have, you know, that stability. Now you can again go out there and you can build your team based off of the recruiting and the sourcing. There's different opportunities with that, and then focus on the clients and the industries that you like and that you want to focus on.
No, that's huge, man. And when I think about that too, you know, when I think about things, I always get like a graphical representation in my head, you know, so when you're like, hey, I'm a staffing agency and we're trying to move forward, what we need to be able to move forward in our orbit is payroll processing effectively every week, because in the staffing industry, it changes, right? Your payroll could change up and down, or does it fluctuate a lot?
No, it fluctuates. It depends on seasons. So a lot of industries operate on seasons. One industry, you know, they may be Q1, Q2. Another industry, you know, it may be Q4, and really, you know, like the retail, once you kind of hit the end of Q3, you start ramping up. Insurance, again, that's late Q3 to Q4.
Yeah.
You know, so it really depends on the industry, and just understanding the ebbs and flows of when each, you know, season is for a specific industry. That'll get you kind of ahead of the ball, so you can start planning accordingly.
If there's anything that you can leave people with right now as a business owner, you know, for the top 3 keys to your success.
Finding a quality funding partner.
Yep.
2, finding a quality HR and sourcing payroll partner.
Yep.
3, hire quality people. Invest the time to get to know quality people bringing into your organization.
That's what's up, man. Cool. Thank you. I
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Bo.
Yeah.